Thank you very much, Bismarck. I think where we are really is where the level of interest rates is being driven by monetary policies. Okay, so monetary policy in this instance, we'll be talking about the MPR that is at 14%, as well as the various liquidity measures, I'll call them OMO operations, mop-up operations that the central bank undertakes from time to time. We do agree with you that we should see interest rates in the medium to long term come down, really. If we're to encourage local production and manage debt service, really, interest rates should come down as the rest of the economy picks up and recession becomes a thing of the past. But where we are right now is to say that if we were to issue an FGN bond of a similar tenor, that would be about the same rate that we would be borrowing. And since the borrowing is specific to roads, we have to do it in the form of a Sukuk to be able to achieve that, that objective rather than borrowing for the pool, as it were. I think in response to your question about what the DMO would be looking at to bring down debt service, one part of it is what has been running already, which is trying to increase the share of external debt, because we know what we get from that side is an extended tenor and a lower cost of borrowing. So that strategy is ongoing, and we expect to be in the market again in the fourth quarter of this year with more Eurobonds, or a Eurobond and a diaspora bond, whichever works in the best interest of Nigeria. So that's one angle. But I think where we are really also is saying that we're still borrowing, issuing very long-dated bonds. And if the outlook is that interest rates are going to come down, we probably should begin to look at our calendar. So that's something we're doing already, so that we can take advantage of when the rates are down, then we can go back and reissue the long-term bonds. But by way of a strategy that we probably will roll out over the next 1 year or thereabout, subject to appropriate approvals, is to begin to look at buying back some of those long-dated bonds that are at very high rates as interest rates come down, which is really the tool of liability management that a debt management office could use from time to time. And we have seen that work in the international markets, and we intend to apply it here as well. So that should, even for the existing stock, in a year or thereabout, we should be able to begin to sensitize the market and begin to look at buying back some of those long-dated ones. The assumption, of course, is that interest rates would have come down, then that will make it beneficial.
Yeah. But I say this week we saw 180-day stay static, and we saw 90 days come down slightly, and 365 days. Yes. Is that an indication of what directionally you are expecting? Or was it just coincidental?
I would say coincidental. As you know, that short end of the market operates based on the liquidity that is in the market. So I would say coincidental. But if you ask me, even those rates are still very high. Yes. Still very high. So it will take a combination of policies, a review, I should say, of the various liquidity management policies, and overall economic development to bring down the rates, I should say, below 14. So we're not there yet, if you're asking me what our expectations are.
But if inflation is going down, or inflation is declining, and inflation expectations are that it will stay, at least decline marginally, is that an indication of the expectations from the policy-making community as to what we should look out for in the next quarter?
I would agree with you, Bismarck. I think that is the expectation.
Okay. Thank you very much, Pat. Have a good day.
Yes, I think the Director General, a few more questions here. We have some of our viewers asking questions on Twitter, so I'm going to put it to you. How exactly, this is from Shola Oguniyi, how exactly will these Sukuk tie to infrastructure assets that pay back?
Okay, in this specific instance, the roads have already been selected. Okay, in this specific instance, the roads have already been selected. They are 25 road projects in the 6 geopolitical zones. So the sections of those roads have been identified, and arrangements have already been made for how those funds will be tied to those projects. So the funds are not going to a pool, they'll be tied to those projects. Let me clarify the question as to if those projects would generate revenue to pay back the Sukuk. The reality is that those roads are not going to be tolled now, so it's not a case of revenue coming from tolls to service the Sukuk. What it is been taken as a direct obligation of the government, and servicing will come from appropriation, the same way we service our current domestic borrowing.
The Director General, we appreciate that, clarifying that these roads would all be tolled immediately. I'm sure Nigerians will be asking if by the time they go into the village at the end of the year for Christmas and maybe New Year, they just meet some unexpected toll gate, and then with all the problems as you said. So thanks for that comfort you've just brought into the conversation. For those millions of Nigerians who will be traveling at the year end, don't expect any toll gate yet. Anyone on the road for now is going to be illegal until you're done with the Sukuk, isn't it? Okay. Madam Director General, I think we've got to let you go at this point. Thank you very much for having you here, Director General of the Debt Management Office, Patience Oniha, in our first live television interview. Ms. Makiwane, still here speaking about inflation and interest rate. That's what we got last Friday, just before the weekend. So give us 1 minute as to how this inflation numbers that we had for August met with the outlook from FDC.
First of all, about the same, so directionally correct. Nominally, just about within a margin of error. 16.01 was exactly about where we thought it to be.
The consensus in terms of variance?
In terms of, that was where we thought the headline inflation would be. And that was the consensus opinion of most analysts, except, I think, FBN Quest that said it will go higher.
Okay, so that's consensus. Let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to unpack this a little bit for us. You folks believe it's down, but it's still high. That looks like a bit of a paradox. Ms. Makiwane is sitting here for the final part of the program. You don't want to miss that conversation.